The Wednesday week is sponsored by the Riverside Cafe, new outside bar, now open on match days.
There's a chance here, a great save by Turner from McClare. Mike Cummings, a terrific goal by Sheridan.
Brexman against Jones. Get in.
You could have two goalkeepers in there, they would have trouble saving that.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to the Wednesday week, the Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm Lord Hillsborough, and with me online, first of all, this evening, we have Victoria, my darling. How the devil are you?
Hello, my lord. I'm okay, thank you. How are you?
I'm wonderful, sweetheart. Absolutely marvellous, for reasons that will become apparent later on as well. And, of course, our ever-ready Mr. Marriott, Jamesy, or Bean, how are you?
I can guess now why you're so happy. Something we're going to have to talk about later on, isn't it? That might involve a certain somebody with a certain dad scoring a certain 3 goals. Anyway, I've got a bone to pick here because you always come to me first and you went to Vic first there.
Well, I thought I'd mix it up a little bit, Obi.
I must admit, I wasn't
about
prepared. I was ready for Mr. Marriott.
I'm texting my agent as we speak, which is just kind of texting myself, which is a bit sad, but, you know, I never reply to myself.
According to some people, Victoria, you're always ready for Mr. Marriott. Right, then, ladies and gents, let's crack on, shall we? Because, first of all, we've got a wonderful little bit to talk about. The Norwich game, ladies and gentlemen, which was just chuffing marvellous. We've been waiting for this for such a long time, haven't we?
It was great, wasn't it? And do you know what? Not one goal was a hey goal. They were all like, oh my God, that was unreal. Even both of the Rhodes goals were awesome. You know, obviously, Fessy and Mr. Wallace, unbelievable. It was a great day. It really was. And I can't explain it, and I still can't get it into words how I feel about this, because Norwich weren't bad.
That's
but
true.
The scoreline didn't flatter them. Does that make sense? I can't get it into words. This is
why we were so good, because Norwich came at us.
Yeah, they really did.
We saw it. It was exactly the same when we played Newcastle. Newcastle came at us. They tried to win. They didn't. Obviously, we'll come to it a little bit later, but they didn't defend in ridiculous numbers, which allowed us to play beautiful, flowing, sexy football.
But the thing is, Norwich, you could say Norwich didn't deserve to lose 5-1, which on that performance they didn't, but we deserved to win 5-1. It's a very confusing situation to try and explain to people who weren't there as well. We were great, they were great. We scored 5 goals, they scored 1. It's
That's how it should work every chuffing game. It really should. Now, of course, we will not break down the whole thing because it does seem like an age ago now, doesn't it, with what's happened since? But I mean,
let's dwell on it for a while, for God's sake. How often does this happen? 58 minutes of this podcast needs to be talking about Norwich at home. Yeah.
we do have to mention the incredible gut-busting run from Mr. Hutchinson that created the Wallace goal. That was just, oh my word, he just didn't want to give that up, did he? From the right-back position right through to the other end of the pitch. He just stormed that ball through, didn't he?
I think
that
as
was
well,
awesome.
James, I don't know about you, you've got a different viewpoint to me, but until I watched it back probably the 3rd time, I didn't realise quite how far he'd run for that. It was astonishing.
Vic, I was bollocks. I didn't
Yeah,
notice
true.
it at the time.
Yeah.
But I didn't fully appreciate it actually until the video that we put on the Wednesday Week Twitter account, which appeared to have been made using an Etch-a-Sketch, which was quite interesting. Which highlighted.
What has happened there, Lord Age?
It came from Mr. Coachy Mans, whose name I can't pronounce. Johnny...
Did you film it with a brick?
No, I didn't film it at all. It was from the coach. Is it Johnny Conceição, a Portuguese type name? Who posted it onto his that chap.
Anyway,
the really attractive greying gentleman that's always behind Carlos. Posted it on his YouTube page, so we sort of borrowed it from there. But it really did show just what a fantastic run it was.
But you notice the fact that Sam Hutchinson went off injured 10 minutes later and hasn't played since.
I was going to say,
let's
he
just
did
mention
knacker
that.
his knee during that run. So was it worth it?
To really kind of summarise just how amazing that was, obviously we won that game 5-1. we got that early goal. If we didn't get that first goal, if that hadn't have happened, it could have been a very different game, because Norwich, as we've already said, they were going to come at us. If they'd have got the first goal, then it would have been a very different game. I think we'd probably still have won, but who knows? Because as Vic says, it was actually a much tighter game than the scoreline really suggests. I think Norwich played some decent stuff, and it was in the Riverside Cafe after the game. I bumped into one of their fans in the toilet, who was saying, "I can't believe that's happened." And I was like, "Dude, you know
was
what?
it the little guy that was stood on
Yeah,
his
it
own?
was. Yeah.
Yeah, he was so cute. I spoke to him at the bar.
You played really well. There's nothing to be disappointed about there. The problem is that we did to them what we've been threatening to do to a few teams this season, where we were clinical and we took every chance. And this is why you have players like Jordan Rhodes in your side, why you pay the money that you pay for these kind of players, because they get a sight of goal and they take it. He was clinical on Saturday, Jordan Rhodes. He got a couple of chances and he took them both. And he actually put himself around the pitch quite a bit. I don't think there was anyone that didn't play really well. I'm going to give a mention for Sam Winnall, who I thought worked really, really hard. And he was obviously the guy that didn't get his name on the score sheet and was probably unlucky not to, because he had a couple of chances, one that went agonisingly wide. But I thought put in a really good shift and really helped create the room for the goals that other people scored, and all round good day.
Absolutely. And after last week, I'm sorry, I'm about to upset Mr. Marriott here, but I'm gonna say Sasso had a chuffing brilliant game. It really did.
I take that, but I stand by my point, which is that he does do that. He'll have sometimes 2 or 3 games where he doesn't put a foot wrong, but the problem is that he's still got that mistake in him, and I still have absolutely zero faith in him when the ball goes towards him, and I just don't see why, as someone that's supporting a team that's going for the Premier League, I should have to feel that nervous about someone that's playing in our back four. We shouldn't be doing it.
Not in the slightest.
Marketer. Why should you? Why should you feel those things, James? Why?
I realise that actually made me sound like a bit of a twat, but
is it a waste of your time?
Do you understand what I mean?
Are you one of those managers that stands up in a meeting and goes, "Do you know what? I'm getting paid by the hour here, and this isn't worth my time."
Excuse me, are you holding up the wooden spoon? Because if you're not, I don't think you're allowed to speak right now. No, I just think I said this last week. I just think we should have better backup defenders than Vincent Sasso. But anyway, let's not talk about the negatives. We had that discussion last week. This week is about the positives, and even when we come to Tuesday night, I think it's still about the positives. And a good week for Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah, Can I just mention one more positive from that game? Has to be I think James has a favourite chant and I have a favourite chant from that game that both came out when Stephen Naismith kicked off and was his usual miserable moaning self. "You're just a shit Barry Bannon," echoing around Hillsborough on a Saturday afternoon, was fantastic. And then when they took him off, and I don't know the kiddies that they brought on, he was just an even shitter Barry Bannon. It was brilliant.
There were 2 things that I really liked in terms of singing. One was that Jordan Rhodes song that we've got. No, I'm kidding. One was where we do the what's the name? Is it Delia Smith, the Norwich fan that did the famous thing? And we do the "Let's Be Having You, Let's Be Having You." That always makes me laugh. We've done that before. But I tell you what, that whenever we play Norwich, whenever the Honolulu Wednesday song gets going, and it reminds me of the day that all started, which was at Carrow Road. There's always something special about us singing that when we play Norwich. So I love the fact that was going for a little while.
I think we also have to mention as well, when Mr. Semedo came on, that song did not stop. For that last 15 minutes, it just went constantly. And you could see in his face. And it was bittersweet, wasn't it? Because it was so nice to hear it and to see him. And he played well. He did well, But it was also possibly because maybe it's his swan song. It was almost like a testimonial by that point.
Nice swan
it was
song.
a bit. He was cheered every time he touched the ball, didn't he? Which
it was a bit like...
For drunken me, that was hilarious. I couldn't stop laughing. Every time we got the ball, we were like doing a little 3-man Mexican wave. We were like, "Way!" Arms in the air every time he touched it. It was great fun.
But the thing is, will that be his last performance? Aside from a result like that again, when, maybe you can bring him on for 15 minutes, let him have his moment. But will he play again? I didn't realise how young he was until I Googled him after the game. He's only 32. He's not as old as I thought he probably was. I thought he was nearing retirement. I'd love to see him stay at the club. And he's obviously, you saw Fessy when he scored. he ran straight over to Semedo, and he said in his interview post-match, I said I'd run to Semi because he's kept me going, and he's been the person that's kept me on the ground, and da-da-da, which evidently Semedo was on holiday for the first few weeks of the season. But after that, he's made a big difference. Would you give him... Well, we'd all give him another contract, wouldn't we? That's a stupid question. But would you be upset to see him maybe go to a Bury or a Rochdale or somewhere where he can get a couple more seasons and then maybe come back a bit later? Or would you want to see him do a Bullen and just stick it out, retire and become a coach?
I think it's up to him, isn't it? Because it depends whether or not he wants to play football. If he feels that he's still got a couple of years left in him and he wants to be playing football, then I think he has got to do a Bullen. He's got to go somewhere. He's got to do whatever he needs to do, play out the rest of his days, and then we'll see what situation that we're in. I think he genuinely loves this club, doesn't he? And I think he seemed quite happy for his role to be more behind the scenes this season. I mean, we don't get an insight into what goes on in the dressing room, but we certainly get the impression that he's a real key player there. The role that he plays behind the scenes is probably bigger than we realise. And I think that's seen by the fact that all the players seem to have a huge amount of respect for him. So there's a role there, isn't there? It's just whether or not
Is he club captain?
No, he's not been for a long time.
Not team captain, but is he club captain? That's what I mean. Is he still boss?
No, he didn't like it, did he? He didn't like being captain. He was captain during the promotion season, and then he gave it up the season after that. So yeah, I mean, I think it would be great to see him continue at the club in some role. I don't think really moving forward it can be as a player, and that probably means that he's not going to be offered the same kind of financial package as maybe he's been getting for the last few seasons. So it's kind of the ball's going to be his court, isn't it?
I think it is essentially now up to Semi, and I think that he probably wasn't given that money last season, and he still chose to stay at the club. He clearly adores this football club, and to be honest, I mean, again, we've seen it. There's been the article in the Star as well, where he's had a bit of a talking to Fessy, as Vic mentioned there, and that's why Fessy ran over and did what he did, and he's the most professional football player we have at the club by far. Because I mean, when he came on, did you guys notice that he looks a bit bigger these days? He seems to have sort of chunked up a little bit.
Fit, doesn't he?
It's coming up to Easter, isn't it? Cadbury's cream eggs, they're really fattening. You don't realise the calories. I've got this problem myself. I ate 4 of them after the game on Tuesday night, just as a bit of a comfort thing.
You look just like Semedo, that's what it is.
I think his muscle mass is just so much. He's just such
I saw him in the petrol station that's just around the corner from the ground, just on Leppings Lane, the Spa thing. I saw him in there filling up his car a few weeks, probably beginning of the season, a few weeks before the beginning of the season, and I could have got both my hands around his waist.
I don't believe it.
I couldn't have got both my arms around his shoulders. He was huge. He was just like a triangle on legs.
Semedo doesn't put petrol in his car. He's got like a Flintstones car just to get that bit of extra training in, so he can just run everywhere. Bless him.
He obviously works hard though, doesn't he? You can
definitely, yeah.
You can imagine, like, when him and Cristiano Ronaldo go on holiday, but the first thing they do is they get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and they go and they work out for 4 hours, even when they're on holiday.
That's what we did, James.
That's what we did, but that's because we were generally rolling down the stairs to try and get to breakfast in time, wasn't it? That counts as exercise. I find it really interesting, this, because it's such an emotive subject as well, talking about Semedo, because I think as fans, a lot of us are very kind of protective over him, but there's also people... I'm going to use the example of James Kay here. Obviously, was a guest on the podcast a couple of times last season, and who we all still kind of talked to quite a bit. Who was really, really angry about the fact that it was given a new contract in the summer, and said it was a waste of a contract, a waste of money, and that he shouldn't be at the club anymore. And I think there are people that say that it's all too sentimental, and that he's got to move on. He's not good enough to be playing for us anymore. But I would answer back to that with the fact that I actually thought he looked fine on Saturday. I thought he did a perfectly solid job for the time that he was on the pitch. He was very close to having 100% pass rate. Unfortunately, I think with about 2-3 minutes to go, he lost that 100% pass rate, because we were keeping tabs on it, because we were like, that'd be brilliant if he comes out of it with 100% pass rate. But I thought he did all right, and you know what, if he keeps himself fit, would it be disastrous to have him as a squad player for another year? I don't know.
No,
Yeah.
no,
I think we
he's
say it every
invaluable
year,
behind the
don't we?
scenes. He's absolutely invaluable behind the scenes. We saw what he did with Fessy. And
I think every year we
that's
go,
what happened.
will Semi get a new contract? Won't he? Will he? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, he's got another year. Brilliant. It just seems to be a given. He'll come out like on his Zimmer frame, like for the last 5 minutes when we're 3-0 up against like Blackburn. He'll just wheel himself out. He'll be all right.
If we had the same conversation about Dave, it might be a different conversation.
Well, actually,
is he
Lord,
still
I
here
was
or is he
going
gone?
to mention. No, I was going to mention actually that Carlos has said that Dave puts a lot behind the scenes, and maybe he's another player that, but he's a lot younger. He's going to get fed up. Surely he's going to get fed up and want to play football and want to score goals in a lower league, probably, or down the bottom of this league. But he's obviously. Carlos has got a couple of players that he doesn't see any need to get rid of because, well, I'd imagine Dave's on a lot more money, but Semi especially can probably get him for a decent amount of money a week. He's paying him what you would probably pay him to be a Lee Bullen-esque person. So why not keep him? But yeah, Dave, yeah.
No, absolutely. Right. Well, just before we pop on from the Norwich game, one last little thing I would like to mention is Mr. Wallis had me rolling around the aisles, the Forest game as well. Did you guys happen to see the little tweet we popped out?
He's a
Is this the-
cheeky chappy, isn't he?
My mate noticed it at the time and said, he just stuck his finger up his arse. I'm like, Tom, he didn't stick his finger up his arse. But it turns out he did stick his finger up his arse.
Did you just
fair
think
play
it
to the
was
lad.
Tom being Tom?
I just
No,
thought he was
it's
just
the thing.
looking for it, but it did actually happen.
Just to explain for those that didn't see the tweet, the ball went out for a throw-in, and Mr. Wallis sort of chased with the ball, skirted around the Norwich player, I forget who it was now, and as the Norwich player bent down to pick up the ball, he grabbed him by the hips from behind, and, well, I'm sure you can imagine what happened after. Absolutely love him. Right then, legend. So I think...
Can I just do, right, I've mentioned this a few times and nobody ever puts it on. I put on my treble bet that I always give as a tip of Blackburn, Blackpool and Wednesday to achieve the same, and I came away with 50 quid on Saturday. So if you've not listened to my bet before, listen to it again. Whatever you think we'll do, Blackpool and Blackburn usually do as well. So there you go.
Didn't you mention as well in the pub afterwards that you know someone that always bets on Wednesday to win 5-1?
Yeah, Uncle Alan, devastated.
Every time, but
Whenever we
didn't
play
do it
Norwich.
on Saturday.
Yeah, whenever we play Norwich, my Uncle Al, who listens to this show, Lord Hillsbury, is a very big fan of you. Not of me, but he likes you, so he listens. But he always puts on 5-1 against Norwich, no matter what. And this week, he was a bit late. He came to the pub to see us before and didn't put it on. And he always does it, always.
Oh, God.
And it's only against Norwich. Yeah,
Have we got any spare bread we can send him?
I know. Yeah, send him a bit of bread.
We'll send him some bread.
I cashed out at 3-1 at half time as well, so I was buzzing on Saturday. And then I went on the boxing. I've been making it rain all week. I'm not going to lie.
I'm not a betting man. Waste of money. Right then, ladies and gents. So let's crack on, shall we, with the Burton game, because this was a completely different kettle of fish, wasn't it? Burton came and not just parked the bus, parked a small fleet of buses outside their goal area. It got to the point, and I know there wasn't a great deal of option for them, and had they not scored a wonder goal, I don't think they would have scored at all. But after the wonderfulness that was Norwich, it was a little bit deflating, wasn't it?
Before we talk, let's just give Ross Wallace his dues again, because that was a class goal, a class performance from Wallace before he took a knock. You know, he made that goal. He was astounded by it himself, wasn't he? You saw his reaction. Yeah. He just kind of stood there like, oh my God, I've done it again. This is unbelievable.
That shot had absolutely no right to go into the back of the net at all. It just didn't. It had no right to be a goal. So
did he mean for it to bounce in front of the keeper?
I don't know. It looked, it was bang in front of us on the north stand, and he hit it. I was like, what's that? And the next thing, it's banged off the post, and it's in, and I'm like, bloody hell. But yeah, I mean, it was a Wallace goal, wasn't it? It was just a speculative. Go on, have a crack. Why not? It's going wide, doesn't matter. And the next thing you know, it's in the back of the net.
There was a lot of those shots as well, wasn't there? Because there was very little else we could do. There was either balls coming in from crosses or long distance. Was it 30 shots we had or something
Yeah, it was
ridiculous like that.
unbelievable, wasn't
Crazy,
it?
isn't it? It's
Yeah,
absolutely
that makes you
crazy.
feel so sorry for people like your Winnells as well, who should have got a goal against Norwich. Let's be honest, he worked his socks off.
Well,
And
it
then
would have
again,
had if Fessy hadn't have blocked the damn thing.
yeah, there was
There was
that.
also a shot that Fessy blocked to Jordan Rhodes that was going in on the Norwich game as well. So it would have been 6. I think Fessy just doesn't want anybody to get to his goals.
He thinks he's Vincent Tasso, doesn't he? That's what it is. But I do think that it was, there was no option to get it up front for the Burton game. There was just nothing there. There was no way of getting through because, like you said, they had like a fleet of National Express in their half all the time. There was no way of getting through. So the only option we had was to hoof it and hope for the best. And last season, you look back at goals last season and you listen back to what we said, and every game towards this part of the season was a goal of the month competition between the players, wasn't it? And they even had that joke themselves where they'd all be like, oh my God, you win now. No, you win. No, you win, Wallace. No, you win, Fessy. But I think that was the only option we had. And I heard a lot of people grumbling at Banner and grumbling at Fessy, for taking these opportunities that they did. But actually, they gave it a good go.
I've not really got any complaints about Tuesday, to be honest. I thought that we played well. I thought we still looked positive. We were really trying to get them down the wings. We played ball into the box after ball into the box, and the balls were good balls into the box. It only needed just one of them to sit up right, and we probably should have scored late on. I've not watched the highlights back, but I've heard a few people say that it was one of those. It was a bit of a sitter that we missed. But it really was just one of those days, and I know that we could have done without it at this stage. It kind of feels like we had a few games like that not so long back where, we kind of throw everything at it and it's just not happening for us. Maybe Brentford was similar-ish in the second half, although I thought we played better against Burton. They came to do a job, and we've got to give credit to them. They did that job very, very, very well. I don't like Nigel Clough at all, but in terms of he's built a team there that can go to places. There's no team that's got more away points, more away draws in the Championship than Burton. They've got the most. And that's because they're very good at going to places and defending incredibly resolutely. And they keep their concentration, and that's the main thing, because you keep going at them and think at some point the concentration's going to drop and you get that one chance and you get the goal. And I thought it was going to happen. I thought with about 20 minutes to go, I still think that we'll get a winner in this. I think we'll get a late winner in it. And we came damn close and it didn't quite happen. I don't think we need to panic about it. I don't think we need to overanalyze it. I think in terms of analysing it, there was a really good piece in the Star that Chris Holt did about the difference between the Norwich and Burton games and why they were so different in terms of how our opponents approached those two games, which kind of said everything that needed to be said about it. We got a point out of that game where on another day, if the Wallace shot didn't go in and we end up losing 1-0 at home, then we think that's a really bad day at the office. So you know what, it is what it is. Let's put it to bed and let's move on now and get some more wins under our belt.
I think
we've done it, haven't we? We did it. We had the Stuart Gray couple of seasons where we played very vanilla football, and that's essentially what our tactics were when we first got into the Championship, wasn't it? So it's kind of difficult to argue against those sorts of tactics when we've done them themselves. It's just frustrating when you're on the other end of it, isn't it?
I think one thing there were two things that stood out for me. The first thing was after the game, there was somebody who I retweeted. I don't know who it was. I'm really sorry. But someone that said, had we beaten Burton 5-1 and drawn at home to Norwich 1-1, would have been happy with those 4 points. And it's very true. We would have. I think we'd have all gone, bloody hell, yeah, we've thrashed Burton, we drew with Norwich, who are, a bit of a rival. That's great. And the second thing was, John Rayford's really small. I thought he was a lot taller than what he is. I always presumed he was in the 6 foot, 6'2". He's tiny and shit, but tiny, isn't he? What a little man.
He's a scruffy little bugger, though, isn't he?
I think it's like Samson, isn't it? Where they shave his beard off and he shrinks 3 foot.
The other thing it is worth mentioning from the Burton game as well is that Mr. Bannon was actually the first player in the Championship this season to attempt 50 passes in the final third of the opposition's half this season in the Championship as well, which is a chuffing lot of passes throughout one game. So well done, Mr. Bannon. And clearly the opportunities were there, just didn't quite pull off for us on that particular day. Still,
I think Bannon's come back into his own, hasn't he? I think, the dropping him recently has probably made a huge difference. I think these last 2 games, he's been outstanding. Like, everyone was against Norwich. Everyone was brilliant. There wasn't one bad player, even Sasso, that had a bad game. That Bannon has really, really come back to the Bannon that we saw probably around towards, like, it finished this time last year, didn't it? It finished just in time for the playoff final. But I think he really does look back to Barry Bannon again. He's looking good. And I feel a lot more positive about the whole Kieran Lee situation now.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that he had a great game against Norwich, particularly. I thought that I don't think there was anyone on Tuesday night that you would say looked awful. I think that everyone put in a pretty decent performance. I thought Reach looked quite good when he came on. I thought everyone was all right. I thought David Jones looked particularly good on Tuesday, and I was surprised actually at how well it works him playing there. And maybe we're seeing. When we're playing a team that sit quite deep, it allows him to come forward a little bit more, and that seems to suit him better. He had a pretty good game.
Absolutely.
Here's a question. Where would you find all of the following in one place? Chairs, tables, beer, Vic, James, more beer, Dick Yow, Eddie, more beer, and the rest of the Wednesday week gang. That's right, it's the Riverside Cafe's new outside bar. All of your favourite lagers, ciders, soft drinks and hand pump ales are now available outside. Come and see the gang and give it a try. The Riverside Cafe's new outside bar, now open on match days.
Right then, ladies and gents, so let's crack on with some Wednesday news, shall we? There's not a huge amount, but there's some little bits and bobs. Now, the Megastore has had a little bit of a facelift. We have finally removed the Antonio and Liera pictures from the Megastore and replaced it with something a little more, I wouldn't even say modern, more throughout the ages, shall we say.
I like it. I think it looks really good. I've only seen the pictures of it. I've not been in the Megastore, but I think certainly the photos make it look like something quite. Yeah, it's quite good. There's some really good memories in there, and I like the fact that it uses all the old badges. It's like a real nod to our history, which we know that Mr. Chansiri is really proud of, and it's really important to him to make sure that he acknowledges the history of the club. So I think it's nice. Yeah.
I've got to say, right, I was in on Saturday. I didn't notice anything. I thought it looked just as bare and as dull as always. There were just shitloads of away shirts.
You're a girl. You don't notice these things.
Yeah, I know.
They've done a bit of DIY.
In all
That's what they've done.
I went around the shop to try and find you a present. I asked for a Vincent Sasso picture. I asked for all sorts of things, and they didn't have them. How can they not have a Sasso picture? Surely that's the only one they sell.
Sold out. It's just sold out.
Well, you could have had a Bullen photo in his training kit, which, for 99p is quite the offer.
The Sasso one sold out weeks ago because there's a lot of people who've got dartboards in Sheffield.
The Sasso ones are also laminated, whereas the Bullen ones aren't.
It doesn't look any different to me. I think I need to go in again and just have a look because I just didn't spot anything. But I'll come on to the thing that I did spot later.
Whilst you are there, we'll just make sure that all the Rob Jones mannequins are still there, because I do like the fact that Rob Jones mannequins have never actually moved from the Megastore. Other little bits of Wednesday news this week. First of all, apparently we've been out to Bulgaria, boys and girls, scouting a 15-year-old boy, which... we'll leave that joke there. A chap called Ayi Hamon, which he's playing at the moment for Lokomotiv Podvid. I probably pronounced that utterly wrong. But
Lokomotiv Podbean? What?
Did you know that we're hosted on Podbean?
Podcast chat.
Lokomotiv Plovdiv, and he's made his first team debut at 15. I mean, is it right that we're sort of running around Europe chasing after 15-year-old boys, or is this something that Wednesday now doing?
I think it's worrying that 15-year-old boys are playing football anywhere. 15-year-old boys should be taking drugs and drinking cider out of brown paper bags. That's what you do when you're 15. And then you learn all your life lessons, and then you settle down and sort out your career. So whoever he is, he's going to have a troubled kind of like midlife. When he gets to his 40s and he thinks, right, now I'm going to have my childhood, he's going to be problematic.
Do you think Mr. Chansiri just feels like he is Madonna? And he's just going around all these different
Just
countries
adopting
trying to adopt
children.
children.
For God's sake, don't let him in Malawi. Bloody hell.
The thing is that when he does get to the club and has his 15 quarter life crisis, shall we say, probably in his 30s, Semedo will still be there to sort of put an arm around him and say, "Don't worry, young chap, Mr. Semedo's here." By then, of course, he'll be old, grey, and utterly psychological. Love him, absolutely.
I reckon that Semi's lived a bit though. He trains hard, he works hard, but I reckon he's lived a bit. He's been spotted on nights out in Sheffield a couple of times.
He wasn't chasing 50-year-old boys at the time, was he?
I couldn't possibly comment on that rumour.
Of course not. Let's not call that a rumour. Let's call that a really bad Lord Hillsborough joke, which I apologise for already.
Let's just call that libel.
Let's move on. Yeah, let's move on really, really quickly. Now, have you guys been keeping an eye on our growing Thai Sheffield Wednesday fan groups as well?
Freaking love these groups. They are brilliant, aren't they? Go on, my lord.
Well, it's fantastic that obviously with our new Thai connections that the Sheffield Wednesday word has been spread out there in Thailand, and we're getting a bit of a following out there as well. And these Thai sort of Facebook groups and obviously Thais on Twitter, etc., have been brilliant, and it's all in Thai. And have you guys seen the translations of what comes through from Thai?
Facebook auto-translates things, doesn't it? But it uses like an algorithm that's been written by a 15-year-old boy who should be out drinking cider, but instead is employed by Facebook. So they're not terribly good. Is that a fair
No, they're
summary?
brilliant. They're absolutely amazing. There was one I've got in front of me now with the picture of Fessy with Semedo after his goal, and obviously Fessy is pointing to Semedo. We've all seen the picture, haven't we, boys and girls? It's a beautiful, beautiful photograph. And from the the Thai Sheffield Wednesday Thailand Facebook group, it says, "Team of the week: Fernando is consciousness law." Have a name on Team of the week, and this is my son, my beautiful. Shoot him. That's just amazing.
Fantastic.
Absolutely love it. So I think we should all send things off and just quite simply have them translated from Thai. Right, now, by far the most important bit of Sheffield Wednesday news this week. It's that time, ladies and gents. It's George Hurst update time.
I'm just off for a wee. I'll see you in a
James,
bit.
I'm just going to go for a wee.
All right.
Oh, bad time. She called it first.
That means you're stuck, Vic. You're stuck talking to me about George Hurst. Now, ladies and gents, Mr. Hurst popped himself off to play Hull Tigers with the rest of the Wednesday team, of course. I'm sure probably did some bits of kicking footballs around as well. But, of course, he's come back with a hat-trick and a 3-2 win over the Hull Tigers, which is fantastical. And the under-23s are also at the top of the Northern League now as well, which is brilliant. This youth team, not just Mr. Hurst, we've sort of ploughed on about it again and again and again and again and again, but it's looking brilliant.
Have, not we have. You as an individual have ploughed on about it again and again and again.
Do you know, all of that was brilliant, apart from the fact that you called them the Hull Tigers. What the hell is that?
It's because...
Is that what they actually call their youth team, the Hull Tigers?
That's what...
Isn't that the rugby team?
The Hull City... Well, is that not the official name of the football club these days?
Hull City Tigers.
They were
changed
blocked
it
from
back.
doing it, weren't they? They weren't
Nonsense.
allowed to do it.
Well, that's what popped up on the Twitterage bit that I was watching. It said Hull City Tigers under 23s.
Well, isn't it nice to beat Hull? Hey, can you imagine? Wouldn't that have been a different world? Would have been paid for this shit.
But now, obviously, our strike force is pretty full in the first squad, and of course, previously we've all been screaming for Mr. Hurst to get his chance, and obviously he's made his first team debut.
Hang on, whoa. Just slow it down. Brakes on. I think the only person that's been calling for George Hurst to have his chance in the first team is sat on the other end of this Skype call right now.
Look, before...
James, have you been screaming for George Hurst at any point?
I've not. I've suggested there might have been a couple of games where he might have been good to have on the bench as an option to bring on because we didn't really have any. But I don't think I was screaming it. I think I was quite casually just saying, yeah, maybe we could stick him on the bench.
66% of tonight's podcast have never claimed that they wanted Georgia. Okay.
But the other 33 has. But obviously now it's a bit of a different story. Now, obviously we have spent rather heavily with Mr. Rhodes and of course Mr. Winnall, etc., etc.
Oh, so that's the reason. Bloody hell. 10 million quid on Jordan Rhodes. That's what it was. No, my lord. Leave him alone. Right? Jordan Rhodes is not the reason that George Hurst is not getting into the first team.
I think you might be missing my point slightly here. Is that maybe we might not have room for a Mr. Hurst in the next couple of years in the first team. It pains me to say it, but if a club does come in offering pennies for Mr. Hurst, now we have these wonderful striking options. Is it the time? Do you guys think? You know what I think, but do you guys think that it would be a possibility to make some money from the youths?
No, my lord.
I will
Do you
quote
know what?
Mr.
I love
Chancery.
you, and I don't want to lose you.
Yeah, it would.
So you just
you'd
stay
be
strong.
intolerable. To quote Mr. Chancery, we are not a selling club, and we, other than players that we wanted to get rid of, we haven't. We've never sold a player that we didn't want to leave, and I can't foresee a situation where that would change if we don't win promotion in the next 2 or 3 years or whatever it's going to be before financial fair play becomes an issue, and maybe we have to look at that differently. But in terms of this summer, nah, not happening.
Thank Chuff for that. I just wanted to make you feel lots and lots better. That's all. Right then, chaps, do you have any other little bits and bobs that you'd like to yell out for this evening?
I do. I have some bad news, guys. Really, really bad news.
Oh, no.
Our new look Megastore is out of ease. That's right.
Big fun.
On Saturday, I went to go and get the shirt for our winner, Oliver. The Road 17 shirt that we had promised, and we'd done the thing on the website and all that jazz. And I couldn't get it because they didn't have any E's in stock. And when I asked why, he said, well, we've got Forestieri, we've got Luvens, I was like, well, why have you not ordered more E's? Like, what's wrong with you? James, do you want to put in your Class A drugs joke now?
I can do, yeah. So they got no E's on Saturday, you say. Since when did the club shop start dealing Class A drugs? I did the joke on Twitter on Saturday, all right? It's the funniest joke I've done for about 4 years. All right? Laugh, for God's sake.
What you should have said, Victoria, when
Lolling.
they've got no E, you should have said, E's are good, E's are good. Da-la-la-la.
Oh, I never thought about that. I just said, you what, mate? So anyway, after that, so I ordered a blank shirt because I thought I can't really get like Rod_S for someone that's won a competition. That's a bit shit. So I got the blank shirt in the size that was asked for, and I got a gift voucher that's of £15, which means that the guy can get Road 17 on the back when they have E's in stock. We did also discuss the possibility of taking it to Bramall Lane and asking for such lettering on the back, but then we didn't know if the championship had different letters, and it all got confusing. However, I have some news about our winner.
Ooh, uh-oh.
So I went to go meet this guy on Sunday with his shirt.
This was the winner, not just...
Yeah, no, definitely the winner. He is a minor, so he couldn't be interviewed or photographed for our podcast because he's still at school, and yeah, that's a bit weird, isn't it?
He's not another bloody 15-year-old boy, is he?
Yeah,
this whole podcast
much,
tonight is...
Literally...
It's getting a bit weird, this.
Literally is. But the guy's called Oliver, right? And he's 15, and he was really nice, and he took his shirt and everything. And do you know what I discovered while I was talking to him? You know these SWFC Titanic videos that we all piss ourselves at? That's that guy. So that account is run by Oliver, the 15-year-old lad that won the shirt. But what a genius to come up with that account.
Just so happens to be one of your favourite Twitter accounts, Victoria.
I knew. Don't trust him. I didn't know his name. I didn't know his surname. I didn't know anything about him. But yeah, he's that guy. He just said, he was like, oh, by the way, did you know that I run this account? And I thought, no, that's amazing. You're my favourite Twitter account.
Does he listen to the podcast?
He didn't, because he... Well, no, he started to since he entered the competition, I should say. Right. He hadn't beforehand. He hadn't seen anything of it as such on Twitter or whatever. But now he does, and I think he's quite a big fan. But we have to keep the swearing down because he's a minor. He's a little boy. He's much taller than me. He's not a little boy. But then again, so are most people. So
Oliver, if you're listening now, all right, I think it's very commendable that you're running this Twitter account at 15 years old. But what you need to do is go and get a bottle of cider and a brown paper bag and go and sit in a park. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I think it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant.
That account is hilarious. That is so funny. And to find out that it was this young innocent boy is just even better. I thought it was going to be some like 70-year-old man like Lord Hillsborough.
I beg your pardon. I'll have you know that I have been interacting
compared to a 15-year-old boy myself.
I've been interacting with the youth on Twitter this week, and I put out one of my ridiculous chants on the games like I do, and it was the old "We are the owls." Whoa, that nonsense. And
We are the owls of Sheffield. Oh, I love that song.
Yeah, you just got the lyrics wrong, but not to worry. But this lovely young boy, who I thought was ever so sweet, tweeted back and said, "What tune's that to, pal?"
Get him to download the album. It's available on iTunes. But you can't get that really that sad song with the woman singing. You don't get that on iTunes anymore. Bad times.
I don't blame the young boy. I blame his parents for clearly not bringing him up properly. Why was that not played to him 3 or 4 times a week for the last 15 years?
Do you know what I miss?
We're having a proper making friends and influencing people
Wednesday,
podcast this week,
it must
aren't we?
be Wembley.
I think I've got that on my phone.
We get to Wembley this year. I've got it on tape. It was my favourite. I used to play it on, like, rewind it. I used to have to get the pencil in and sort out the tapes. I played it that much. Oh, miss those days.
I liked the official version of Hi Ho Sheffield Wednesday that was done in the mid 2000s, which, by the way, I'm listed as a producer on that track.
Are you?
I am.
No.
Yeah. On the CD sleeve, I'm listed as one of the producers.
How come, James?
I can't tell you the story because my mate who was involved in it would probably never be able to work again. As to why I helped him out and ended up being listed as a producer. That's all I can say.
You see, we're just famous all over the place.
Right there, isn't it? That's like silent witness. What did you do?
I genuinely can't tell you.
Oh, James.
Let's leave that for afterwards.
This is the first time I've ever had a save it for afterwards conversation.
Oh.
I want to talk a little bit about songs, and I know I kind of touched on earlier about the fact that we're still singing that really poor song for Jordan Rhodes. Someone did tweet me the other day with a suggestion for a Jordan Rhodes song, and it's actually quite obvious this because it's a song that was sung for Paul Scholes, but I kind of like it, and I should have made a note of who it was that sent it to me, and I apologise for the fact that I haven't done, so I am desperately trying to scroll down my newsfeed, my mentions as we talk to try and find out who it was, and not having much success. But anyway, it's so it's to the tune of Kumbaya. So Jordan Rhodes, my lord, he scores goals. Jordan Rhodes, my lord, he scores goals. I like it because it's a nice tune, it's a nice song, and it also references my lord, which kind of makes me think of you, Lord Hillsborough. So it's almost as if we're singing a song to you. So I quite like that. I think that's good. I think it sounds good at football grounds as well. So there's that. So that's a real positive. However, I do need to also mention the fact that still we don't have a song for Ross Wallace, and he scored 2 in 2 once again. In the last 2 games and put in a couple of very good performances, and once again Semedo comes on and runs around for 10 minutes and everyone goes absolutely barmy. So I feel bad for Ross Wallace. So I've concluded the fact that we're not going to be able to come up with a song for Ross Wallace, so how about we make a song about the fact that we don't have a song for Ross Wallace. So I have 3 suggestions, and one is that we just sing, "We've got no song for you, we've got no song for you, we've got no song for you," etc. Suggestion number 2 is, "Wallace, what's your song? Wallace, Wallace, what's your song?" Or finally, and I'm taking inspiration from what seems to be our most popular chant, e.g. the Jordan Rhodes one, where we go, "You ain't got a song, you ain't got a song." So they're my 3 suggestions for songs about the fact that we don't have a song for Ross Wallace. Here is your challenge now, listeners, over the next week. I want more suggestions for songs about the fact that we don't have a song for Ross Wallace.
Was there never like a Braveheart song about Wallace? Because it was William Wallace, wasn't it, in Braveheart? And I feel like
think
Ross
like
Wallace
football songs.
is.
Whilst we're running
But I
around
feel
chopping
like
people's heads
there
off.
might be one, like, and that could be his song.
I think the only song that they did during that film was the song.
Maybe we do that.
Maybe we could do that.
But like a solid bit. Mel Gibson.
I think we're missing the obvious Ice Ice Baby here, boys and girls. Surely that's
Like Ross Baby.
Wallace Baby. Dun, 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 Ross Wallace Baby. No?
That doesn't fit, does it? It's too many syllables, my lord.
No.
I know we said
Ross.
that we weren't going to swear as much in this podcast this week, but that was shit. Sorry, dude. That was shit.
Who said that?
What about na 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 na? We've got Ross Wallace, because we seem to use that for every other fucker.
Oh, that's a great song. Love it. Brilliant. Let's do that.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, let's use that one.
Whether you're celebrating a birthday, a wedding or anniversary, maybe you've passed your driving test, or you've landed a new job. Well, whatever your reason for a party, the Riverside Cafe is the perfect location on Catch Bar Lane overlooking Hillsborough Stadium. To inquire about hiring us for your function, call 07989 856 054 or 0114 232 6121.
Right then, ladies and gents, so let's crack on because we do have the Villa game coming up. Now, Villa are improving.
Shit. Villa, give me a superlative here.
I'm going to use improving because they did have a little bit of a run where they played some not great teams and have managed to string some wins together and become utterly mid-table, haven't they? But I can only see that they're going to come out and try and win at home, aren't they? They are going to attack us. And to me, that'll be brilliant if they do, because then we can do a Norwich on them.
It might suit us. I've been really excited about this game right up until today when, and thank you to Lord Hills for drawing my attention to this, they're not going to be selling beer at Villa Park on Saturday. So I'm now contemplating whether to even bother going, to be honest. Lost all interest in it. Do you know what I'm viewing this as? And you know what? We need to go there and we need to get 3 points. But this is revenge on Steve Bruce, this, for the playoff final. We need to go there and we need to teach him a lesson that his boring, drab, pathetic tactics are not going to work on us anymore. So we need to go there. We need to teach him a lesson. This is what Carlos needs to do as his team talk. You know, forget about going for the playoffs. Forget about promotion. Teach Steve Bruce, the ugly chuffer, a lesson. That's what we need to do on Saturday. Go out there and show him how annoyed we are about the fact that Hull played the way that they did in the playoff final and about 4 of their fans turned up. That's what we need to do on Saturday. Have them.
Just have them.
Have them.
Let's be having you.
Now, obviously the Villa do have a very, 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 on paper, good side, with a very, very, very lot of money spent on that very, very, very good side. But yes, they have been stringing together a few wins recently. But this is so difficult because I don't want to be disrespectful. But we need to muller them, don't we? And I do believe that they will give us the opportunity to muller them.
Look, don't make no mistake about this. That's a damn good team that they've got there. And obviously this season they're going nowhere. Next season they will be up there or thereabouts. They will be one of the favourites and they'll be one of the best teams in the division because they've assembled a squad of players who can play well in this league. The problem is, as we know, as we found out before, it takes time for those players to get to know each other and to cohese. So I think that's what's starting to happen. So saying that we need to go there and muller them, I can't buy into that because I think we need to go there and we need to win, and I don't think that's going to involve mullering them. I think that it's going to involve us having to play exactly the right game because they are a quality side and they will throw some decent moves together, and we've got to be able to match that and do what we need to do. It's probably not dissimilar in a way to Norwich in that respect, that they are a team that will play football, and as you said, that might well suit us. But let's not dwell on the fact that they've been quite poor for most of this season. They are getting their shit together, and that is a quality team of footballers there.
Yeah, but they've been only getting their chuff together, because I'm not going to swear. Just recently, I mean, let's have a little look. But
that's kind of an issue for us, isn't it? Considering the fact that we're about to play them next, the fact that they were playing rubbish and losing games, and now they've sorted themselves out and they're winning games. I would see that surely to suggest that they're probably going to play quite well on Saturday rather than play quite poorly on Saturday.
Okay, so they lost. Just going back to January, so they lost 3-0 to Brentford. They lost 2-1 to Forest. They lost 1-0 to Ipswich. They lost 3-1 to Barnsley. Then they lost 2-0 to Newcastle. Then they won Derby. And now, of course, we all know that February is the date that Derby just started to chuff up everything anyway, so that was to be expected. They lost to Bristol, which, yeah, fair enough. They lost to Rotherham, they won Rotherham, which everybody's chucking wins Rotherham, and then of course lost at the weekend against Huddersfield. So I think that the games that they've won haven't been particularly impressive, if I'm honest.
Well, fair point. You can only win what's in front of you, and I stand by the point that in January they had pretty much an entirely new midfield with the players that they'd brought in, and it took time for them to kind of get themselves together. And now they find themselves getting better results than they were doing. And I think that would happen regardless of who they've been playing the last few games.
So if I do my normal sort of 7-0 prediction, would you not agree, James?
Well, of course I'm going to agree because I'm a Wednesday fan, aren't I? But what I'm saying is
that's the spirit all been.
I think that it doesn't matter for us. We're fans, It doesn't matter what we think or what we say. What matters is what Carlos thinks and what Carlos says, and how the players go out and view the game. But I think it's a bit dangerous for us to think, oh, Villa have been rubbish this season, therefore we're going to go and wallop them. It's a game that we can win. I've got no doubt about that whatsoever. I think it'll actually be a good game of football. I think that there'll be some nice stuff played. I think there'll be two teams there that are going to go for it. Villa have got nothing to lose at all. They're not going up. They're not going down. You could make a song about that, couldn't you?
They're not going up. They're not going down. That Aston Villa.
That obviously is not the song.
I quite liked it.
Thank you.
Well, one chap that is going to be busting a guts against Villa is Mr. Bannon, isn't he? Because he's not right keen on Villa, and I don't think the Villa fans are right keen on him, are they? Obviously, when we have spoken to Mr. Bannon's parents previously, they have mentioned that maybe he didn't get his chances, shall we say, against while I was there, and I think he'd like to show them what for, wouldn't he, Mr. Bannon and the Bannon family?
I hope he goes out and runs them ragged. I really do.
Oh, Mr. Bannon hates Villa, doesn't he? I forgot about that. Like Bannon Senior. No, not Barry. We've only briefly spoken to Barry, but we know Mr. Bannon. What's his name, James?
Oh God, I should know this, shouldn't I? Give me a minute. I'm so bad with names. I think it's Jimmy.
But he
I
hates
think it's Jimmy.
Villa. Jimmy. Yes, it is.
See you,
Jimmy. He hates Villa.
So yes, I'm sure that the Bannon family will be mightily spurred on to give Villa a right good tonking when we do come across them.
A right good ponking.
Ponking. Ponking.
I'm hearing it as ponking forever. I hope we give her a right good ponking.
I thought you said Don King, as in the boxing guy. What? I hope we give him a right good Don King.
I hope we give them, like you could be stood like a proper hoolie at the front throwing stools and whatever and go, do you know what, I hope we give you a right good ponking.
We really need to find another way to record this podcast, don't we? Apart from over Skype. Right, then, ladies and gents, that's going to bring us to an end of this week's proceedings. Victoria, my darling, if people want to get hold of you over there on the Twitterage, where can we do that?
You can find me at Victoria1867, or you can email me, thanks to podcast websites, vic@thewednesdayweek.co.uk, and give me a right good ponking. That's 2 times in one show. Oh, God.
Did you snort?
Yeah, I did it earlier and you didn't notice.
Oh, I did. I was trying to be polite and go like gloss over. James, your boy. if people want to give you a good Ponkin, where can we do that?
Wow, right, okay. So, yeah, on Twitter, I am James Marriott. That's with 2 R's and 2 T's. Landing in Birmingham on Saturday at about 10:30, off for breakfast, and then around the usual array of pubs. If you're going to be there, drop us a tweet. It'd be lovely to grab a beer somewhere. Going through to... I think is it called Witton, which is the nearest train station to Villa Park, as late as possible due to the fact that the boring old gits are not selling any beer. It may be a good thing, actually, that they're not selling beer at the ground, because it will avoid a repeat of what happened on Saturday, where me and my mate Tom decided to... In fact, me and my mate Tom and John decided to stay out after the game. John at some point or other went home, and me and Tom stayed out for, well, we don't know what point we got home. However, we've been reminded of the fact that we went to the Riverside, not as in the Riverside Cafe, the Riverside pub at Kelham Island. We crashed the same wedding party 3 times that was taking place in the function room because we wanted to steal some of their food, and eventually got thrown out of the pub by the bouncer, who we started an argument with. Somewhere along the line, I lost my favourite beanie hat.
No, not the one I'd washed for you.
No, it wasn't that one. It was my my blue one, which I'm gutted about. If anyone does find a blue beanie hat anywhere, probably mine, give me a shout. And then I couldn't understand why the next morning I was looking through tweets and stuff, and I noticed that someone whose name I didn't recognise had just sent me a tweet that just said, Rooney. I'm like, what's that all about? So I was kind of scrolling up thinking this would be part of a conversation, and it wasn't. And then through talking to Tom, we managed to piece together the fact that when we were in the beer garden at the Riverside pub, we'd got talking to these 3 guys who were Wednesday fans, who were actually podcast listeners, and then we decided to pick on someone on the next table because he looked a little bit like Wayne Rooney, and we were all there chanting Rooney at him. So apologies to the guy who actually didn't look at all like Wayne Rooney from memory, who we just kind of picked on a bit. So all in all, it wasn't a very successful night, so maybe a good thing that they're not selling beer on Saturday. There ends my story.
You know, we try to run a respectable podcast here, and then you just go out there, crashing weddings, losing beanie hats, picking on people. You should be ashamed of yourself, James.
It wasn't a wedding, it was a wedding reception, and I didn't just crash it, I crashed it 3 times. Come on, if you're going to crash a wedding party, do it 3 times.
You know, your breakfast in Birmingham, are you going to the Amazing Place?
The Amazing Place?
That place that we went to at Wolves Away. Are you going to that breakfast?
Yes. It's called...
jealous.
I can't remember what it's called. Something Red.
Cherry Red?
Might be Cherry Red, something like that, yeah. Good place.
Oh, it was so good.
They also sell beer at like 9 o'clock in the morning, so it's breakfast and first
Really
pint at 10:30.
Oh, that's Ponkin.
That place has got a proper Ponkin there, I'm telling you.
It'd be like Geordie Shore where they come up with catchphrases like, oh, you're such a Raji and all that. We'll be like, oh yeah, you are Ponkin, mate. You are Ponkin.
I know I said that I finished my story, but can I also just give a shout out to at KrakenJack1867, who was one of the guys that we were talking to at the Riverside pub.
Hi, Miss Kraken Jack. Thank you for listening, and I apologise in advance if James gets you kicked out or anywhere else. Of course, if you'd like to follow me over there on the Twitter, you can do that at LordH, that's L0RD_H. I also do have an email address from our wonderful new podcast website's account as well, which I believe, I would imagine, is probably LordH at thewednesdayweek.com. So if you'd like to drop an email out there, it might work, it might not.
.co.uk.
Yeah, definitely won't work, because it's .co.uk.
In that case, send them to
.com, my lord.
Oh, that'd be ace, wouldn't it?
Unfortunately, the WednesdayWeek.com is owned by someone else. There is a band called the Wednesday Week who own .com.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
No.
But they don't really use the website. I did try and get it off them, but unsuccessfully.
Oh, you should have just crashed them and given them a right good Ponkin. That'd be better. Of course, if you'd like to get over there on the... if you'd like to get on the podcast over there on the Twitter, you can do that at TWWcast, and of course you can get us on the Facebooks, on the iTunes, and everywhere as well. Ladies and gents, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you this evening. Thank you very, very much for joining us. Be good, be safe, get out there, do some ponking.
We will ponk you real soon.
And we shall see you
real soon.
a chance here.